Disney, Sorcerer, Arena, Epic Alliances. This is a game in which the players take on the role of summoners, and we're gonna summon iconic characters from Disney and Pixar, and we're gonna teleport them to this hex-based, very abstract arena so they can beat each other up. That's the kind of family-friendly entertainment for which Disney and Pixar are famous. So this is the board, and what I'm gonna show you in this video is the core set, and also I'm gonna tell a little bit about some materials from the Leading the Charge expansion, which is just 3 new characters and not a lot of new rules. So each player will control a team of characters, and depending on the number of players, you will have different numbers. The game can be played 2 players, in which each player has a team of 3 characters, or as team-based, so you're gonna have 2 teams or 2 players each, 2 characters per player then. Each character is represented by an acrylic stand. These are very nice. I like acrylic miniatures in general because I don't have to build them. I don't have to paint them. They just look good and colorful already. Then we have a card representing the skills and abilities of your character. In particular, you'll know the movement of the character, standard movement and standard attack, personal skills, number of cards that the character contributes to your hand size. This is a card-driven game, and so for example, if I have a team with Ariel and Maleficent, then my total hand size is of 4, adding those 2 together. Each character has a number of life points. When the character goes down to 0, the character is knocked out, giving a certain amount of victory points to the opponent, but there's no player elimination. The character will come back. So you will score points mainly by knocking out your opponents, and or by triggering game effects, and or by sitting there, by taking and retaining control of those 3 hexes there. That is a victory point, which is alluring, but is not nearly as much as taking out your opponents. To keep track of the health of your characters, you may have noticed that there are these plastic rings that go at the bottom of the miniature, and so you click it on it that way. Also, the ring indicates who controls the characters. So here we have red versus blue. It looks nice, and it made me think of HeroClix at the beginning, but unfortunately it's not very satisfying because you can't really click it. You gotta basically remove it if you want to adjust the number and then click it back there. So it's actually a little cumbersome and not super great. When it comes to the characters in the Leading the Charge expansion, and you have Buzz, Scar, and Elsa, the bases are just slightly infinitesimally smaller than the ones in the basic game. And what does it mean? It means that this thing actually doesn't fit nearly as well, and it tends to fall off very easily. Also, if you try to click it down the way, the character also doesn't fit in the base quite as tightly as the base game. So these 3 miniatures are just a little teeny tiny smaller, which means they come off more easily, and this doesn't attach quite as well. Oh well, that happened. Now, the rules are explained is 4 chapters. They clearly wanted to make the game very friendly to absolute beginners in modern gaming, and so the rulebook is divided into like a very simple scenario first. It tells you about the basic of moving attacks, and then other things like that. And really the main game for somebody who plays games regularly will be Chapter 3, which gives you basically all the rules, and Chapter 4, which also gives you team play. Now, each character also, and actually something I want to point out, that's why I talked about the rulebook, is that unfortunately because of the structure, there's no one place in the game that gives you all the rules. If you need to double check something, you have to remember which chapter, which section they were introduced in. So I wish there were 2 rulebooks, one the gradual rulebook, learn by play, learn by scenario, and then another place with all the rules in one spot for, the highest level scenarios. Each character also comes with a deck of cards, and so this is the one for Ariel, for example, and then, you know, I have a team here with also Sally and Gaston, so I would take the cards for all of these characters and shuffle them together in a single deck mixed in, and then I would draw my hand of cards because the game is, well, card driven. I should say card enhanced maybe, because technically you could just not use the cards, just use your basic actions, but you're gonna lose, so why would you do that? Now, this is the reference for, again, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, which is mainly, you know, the main game. When a player's turn starts, a character's turn starts, and I should point out that that is an important factor. Each character comes with a tile, such as this one, and there's a procedure at the beginning in which we decide the order in which these are placed. The weird shape is because this way we can place next to them these tiles that represent possible statuses that the characters may acquire. If the status lasts multiple turns, so then we're also gonna place tokens there that are removed as a countdown to see for how long Mickey is going to be immobilized and how long this character is gonna be cursed, and so on and so forth. And so first we activate that character, and then we move this turn token down, and we activate this other character, and so on and so forth until we go back. We go back there. So at the beginning, you check the status and possible effects for the active character. You return it to the board if the character was knocked out previously. You draw a card, and then you start taking your actions. During your turn, you will have a movement phase, an action phase, and a skills phase. You can take them in any order, but they really are discrete phases, meaning if your character has multiple skills, you can do movement, then take a skill, then do action. You do movement, then any and all skills, and then action, or any and all skills, and then movement and action. Basically, again, all of your skills need to be taken one after the other if you have multiple ones. Moving, you can take a standard move of 2, or you can play a movement card. And now I can find the deck of cards. Where are the cards for this character? Ah, they're there. So, and for example, if a card has move, instead of taking your standard move, you play the card and you do what it says. You can also, if you state the standard action, discard movement cards from any character. It doesn't have to be the active one, to basically enhance your movement by 1 per movement card that you discard. When then you have an action, usually actions very often are attacks. You can take your standard attack, in which case you will inflict 2 points of damage to an adjacent opponent. Bam, take that, Aladdin. Or play an attack card, and if you play a standard attack, you can discard attack cards to boost the attack. Or you play an attack/action card and you do what it says. And as you can imagine, a lot of the theme really comes through because of the cards, because of the unique effects, with Ariel having an awesome trident, healing people with her singing, collecting thingamabobbers that come from the surface. So it's nice, and that's really, again, if you're playing a game like this one, it's probably not because of the tactical depth so much, but because you like the IP and you want to see these characters behave accordingly. So that's basically the idea. That really is the idea. It's a simple game in which, again, each turn you will activate a character. The character will move, perform an action, and use skills in any order. You're trying to get in position to inflict damage on the opponents. Again, you keep track of declining or occasionally recovering health by using these things. Knock out an opponent to score points. Take control of that area to score points. First player or team to reach a certain number of points wins the game. And that's for the basic game, and I mentioned again these characters here that I have from the Leading the Charge expansion. In case you're curious, we got Buzz, as I said, really fun character because his abilities have to do with moving and also lasers, so that you can shoot in a straight line. You can shoot through multiple enemies at the same time. Pretty cool. And then Scar and Elsa. Well, Elsa, of course, has ice-based powers, and also since she's royalty, she has some abilities that have to do with taking control of these spaces here that have crowns, and that's her miniature. As everybody was apparent in the early 2010s, of course, I'm still traumatized by the songs of Frozen. I still hear them in my nightmares, and I always will. As for Scar, again, he's royalty or claims to be, and so again, we have some powers that have to do with taking control of those crown spaces. And again, a nice mix of damaging and causing more damage, because he's mean, and life is not fair. So these are the characters that you find in Leading the Charge. Again, you find basically 3 new characters, not so much like different sets of rules or things like that. In the last couple of years, we have had a number of similar games. The similar idea of card-driven arena kind of games. We have had several set in the world of Warhammer. Last summer I played the Dragon Prince Battle Charge. And now with this Disney Sorcerer Arena, I would put it there in the middle. I still prefer Dragon Prince Battle Charge. I think it's the best of this family. And this one is very good. It's very good, mind you. But it has a couple of minor annoyances here and there that I think prevent it from being more than good. That prevent it from being great. Production at first sight, most things look really nice. I love the acrylic miniatures. I like the art on the cards. The board looks a little bit drab, in my opinion, a little too abstract. The rings that keep track of the life points of each character. Again, as I explained, not a fan of the fact that you have to remove them and place them back. Also, you have some icons that are just really, really tiny. Some icons on the cards. I didn't explain this actually. One thing that is in the last scenario. As you play cards in your discard pile, again, when you have certain sets of icons in your discard pile, you can use those to upgrade your cards, so your characters, to like acquire different power, better abilities, which is a great idea. I was super excited about that, and everybody was really trying to create those sets. But ultimately, it turned out to be not super influential in gameplay, because maybe it'll take you most of the game to upgrade one of your characters. I mean, you can't play cards that are not going to be useful just for that set. And after you upgrade maybe a character, it's a situational power, maybe use the power once or twice. So it feels like almost too much work for what it is, including the fact that those icons are so tiny and so hard to read. But again, without that, if you just have the game, move, play cards, and have these people fight and try to knock each other out, it's fun. Again, as I said, it is solid. A solid gameplay, especially with 2 players. I played with 4. No one enjoyed it all that much. We enjoyed, there's a really good game in here, but there's just too much waiting when you have to wait for 3 players, including your teammate, to go. Too much waiting there. Also, when you play with 2 players, which is what I like to play, as a 2-player game, it's also more interesting because managing your hand of cards becomes more challenging, because now your deck is made of 3 individual decks as opposed to 2 if you're playing in teams, which means it's a little tougher to get the right cards in there, but it's also more satisfying when you find a combo. It's also more satisfying when you're able to coordinate actions. You're gonna rely on basic actions a little more often when you play in 2 players, therefore with 3 characters, therefore with more chaos in your deck. But other than that, those minor things, again, what the game sets up to do, to give you an arena game in which you're creating situations and fights with these iconic characters that play thematically. It's good, it's successful. Again, with 2 players, I had a good time. Sending Aladdin to do those crazy acrobatic stuff, sending the big tank to beat up people, having Maleficent and the Crow to attack people at a distance. They do what they're supposed to be doing. It is thematic, it is fun, it flows well, again, with 2 players. And again, I would say scenario 3 is what the game needs to be. The upgrading thing, you can do it or not do it. I didn't think that it changes things much, but also it doesn't hurt them all that much. The basic idea of maneuvering these characters in this arena works, and to me that is definitely good enough. Again, one reason why I think Dragon Prince Battle Charge is a little more interesting is also because it feels more tactical, because you have terrain. The fact that the space is so empty here, to me, limits gameplay a little bit. Again, the game is good enough. Maybe there will be more expansions later with more terrain, and then it'll become more than good. As of now, Disney's Sorcerer Arena Epic Alliances is a fun, good game for 2 players.